Hello and welcome to Leanne Ward Nutrition, a podcast where you will find expert advice on all things health and nutrition related. Each week, we will discuss my 3 niche areas of gut health, emotional eating, and sustainable fat loss. My hope for this podcast is to cut through the BS online and show you real, practical, and evidence-based messages around nutrition so you can live your best life day in and day out. So sit tight, buckle up, and let's get started on today's podcast. Hi guys, and welcome to another podcast with me, Leanne, as your host. So today we're going to talk about perfectionism. This is a topic I really hold true to my heart as I suffered from that need to be perfect for so long. And when I was studying to be a nutritionist and a dietitian, I always felt like my diet needed to be perfect. I mean, if I didn't have a perfect diet, what kind of nutritionist was I going to be? So I counted every calorie I ate. I took great pride in actually turning down treats that were offered to me, and I would exercise basically every day. I thought that I was like the perfect little nutritionist, but there was always this one thing that I struggled with: blowing out on the weekends. You see, I used all my self-control during the week, and I used all my willpower during the week trying to be so strict and perfect with my eating that come Friday night, I literally had no willpower left, and I'd crack every Friday. I'd munch on chocolates, chips, ice creams, even peanut butter, and I was always left feeling sick and guilty and ashamed of myself. You see, if someone had told me long ago that near enough was actually good enough and that you didn't need to be completely perfect to be healthy, this would have actually really helped the very young 20-year-old version of me. But luckily for you guys, I am here today to spread that message that perfectionism is completely overrated and you can eat chocolate, potato chips, and your other soul foods while still living a healthy and balanced lifestyle. So if you guys have been following me for a few years now, you'll know, or even just a few months now, you'll know how much I stress that near enough is actually good enough, and done and messy is always better than perfect. But today we're going to break that down for you. So this week, I really want you to focus on those little stepping stones to creating healthier habits long term, instead of trying to overhaul your entire life to be perfect. So life will always happen. There will always be bad days. There will always be unexpected events that pop up. There will always be celebrations and social occasions. And no matter how hard you plan or you try, sometimes there will always be things that are out of your control. So remember, being perfect is totally overrated. And if you're anything like me, perfectionism may have been holding you back for far too long. So a lot of my clients ask me, what even is perfectionism? And I guess that there are so many definitions, but typically perfectionists tend to engage in that all or nothing type of thinking, or that very black or white type of thinking. This can often mean that even if a perfectionist messes up, even just once, they always feel a sense of complete failure in a way that's completely out of proportion to the event, but they'll focus on this failure, even if they did everything else right. So if you're struggling to work out whether or not you have some perfectionist traits that may be holding you back, I like to think of these important questions. So do you ever feel like what you achieve is never quite good enough? Or do you ever put off starting things because you're just waiting for the perfect moment? Do you ever put off completing things or handing things in because you're waiting to get them just right? Or do you ever feel like you have to give absolutely 110% on everything that you do, or else there's no point? Sorry, I nearly choked. If you guys answered yes to any of the above questions, or they resonated strongly with you, chances are you too may suffer from perfectionist traits. Now, me in the past would have actually stopped this podcast and re-recorded it because I literally nearly choked in my own saliva, but I'm going to leave this in completely unedited for you guys, just to show you that I've overcome some of my perfectionist tendencies. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having some perfectionist traits. It can actually really help us excel in some aspects of our life. But from my experience working for a number of years in nutrition now, for a lot of my clients, it really, really holds them back. And for me, it did for so many years. Now, I see perfectionist traits going either way, either very obsessive and restrictive, which can lead to disordered eating, or just completely the other way, where people never even start their health journey, or they just fail diet after diet after diet as they expect to be perfect with their eating. So they constantly give in, and then they fail and they just regain their weight, and they just literally yo-yo from one diet to the next because they can never stick to anything, because they always want to stick to it 100% perfectly, which they never can because the diet's always far too restrictive. And so they always give up, go back to their old eating habits and put all the weight back on again. So how do we break out of the perfectionist type of thinking when it comes to our health? Well, you guys are in for a treat today, because I'm going to give you a strategy that I've used for many years on myself. I like to call it, this is the most ridiculous name, but I don't have a better name for it. So I talk to my clients about it in the terms of messy action is good enough. That's what I call the strategy. Messy action is good enough. Basically, what it means is that whatever needs doing, we just do it as well as we can in that moment. And at the end of the day, near enough is good enough. And I like to break this strategy down into percentages. So let me give you an example. Say, for example, we're talking about healthy eating, and I'm thinking about my Tuesday. So on a Tuesday, I will typically eat 5 meals. I'll eat breakfast, I'll have a morning tea snack, I'll have my lunch, an afternoon tea snack, and my dinner. So if all of these meals had equal percentages, the 5 meals that I eat on a typical Tuesday would add up to 100%. So each meal would be worth equally 20%. So say that Tuesday, I woke up and I had a really great breakfast. Then I went into work and had a piece of cake for my colleague's birthday. Now that perfectionist in me would then go on to think that I've failed my day and I've failed my diet, and I'm going to give up healthy eating and I'm going to try again tomorrow. Or even worse, I'm going to start my diet again on Monday, because as we know, all perfectionists like to start new things on a Monday. But using my new messy action style of thinking, I now know that near enough is good enough. So far, I've gotten 20% for eating a great breakfast. Now, the cake at morning tea is 0% because, it's not really that nourishing for our body. It's still fine to eat, but that's okay. I'm still 20% ahead, and I still have 3 meals left in the day. Now, a few of my work colleagues go across the street to buy their lunch at the shop, but I choose to eat the salad and turkey wrap that I pack for my lunch, as I know that this will nourish and fuel my body. Whereas previously, the perfectionist in me would have gone with my colleagues across the street to buy lunch because, I've already buggered up my diet by eating birthday cake, so I may as well go and eat some lunch as well. Now, at afternoon tea time, I start to eat my piece of fruit and my nuts that I packed. However, somebody brings in a box of my favourite chocolates and they start passing them around. I have 2 small chocolates. A, because they're my favourite and I absolutely can't resist them. And B, because what's life without a little bit of chocolate? But that perfectionist in me starts to feel a little bit guilty. But I quickly remind myself that I'm only human and humans aren't perfect. Luckily for me. So I let go of the guilt and I promise myself that messy action beats no action any day. And after all, I've had a great breakfast and I ate my nourishing lunch that I packed. So actually, I'm up 40% for the day. Now, after I finish work, I head home and I'm really tired. I crash onto the couch and my partner asks me if I want to order takeout or get some Uber Eats. Now, in my head, I know that I've got the exact ingredients in our fridge to make a healthy meal for dinner. But the old perfectionist me would have already thought, I've had cake, I've had chocolate, I may as well order takeout because, my day's already been ruined. However, the new me knows that cooking a healthy meal for dinner will A, give me some leftovers to use for my lunch tomorrow, and B, actually help me to nourish and fuel my body, which will ultimately give me more energy in the long run. So the new me asked my partner to help me cook dinner in exchange for watching his favourite TV show later. So after dinner, I think to myself about the day. I had a great breakfast, that's 20%. I had a good home packed lunch, another 20%. And I had a great home cooked dinner, a final 20%. Sure, I didn't eat the most nourishing foods at morning tea and afternoon tea time, but you only get one life, so I'm going to choose not to focus on it today. So today, I chose messy action over perfection, and I was 60% better than I previously would have been if I had chosen perfection and I'd wanted every single meal to be perfect, because if I had, I would have thrown in the towel many meals ago. I would have ordered takeaway lunch with my work friends. I would have eaten far too many chocolates at afternoon tea, and then I would have taken my partner up on the offer of Uber Eats for dinner because I was tired and I know that I've already blown my dad anyway. So giving up the perfectionist type of thinking actually allowed me to nourish my body 60% more than I previously would have if I had been stuck in that perfectionist type of thinking. Remember guys, messy action beats perfection any day. So too often in life, we wait for the perfect moment to start a diet, the perfect moment to start a new career, or even just to start living our best life. But the problem with this is that normally the perfect moment doesn't exist. Or once you think you've found the perfect moment, too often life will throw you another hurdle and you'll just give up and wait for that magical perfect moment to resurface. But again, it might be weeks, it might be months or years later down the track, and slowly but surely your life is passing you by. So take it from me, guys. I've gone through all those perfectionist sort of traits and it is not worth it. And it is honestly exhausting trying so hard to be perfect day in and day out. So I came to this realization that a few years ago, I just thought, screw it, I'm just going to start living my best life. I'm going to do life wrong on purpose. I'm going to do it messy on purpose. But at least every day, I'm going to be happy and I'm going to learn something new every day. And now fast forward a few years or even 5 to 10 years later, and I can honestly say that I've never been happier, healthier, or more content with my life right now. And I will be completely honest with you guys. I am far from perfect, but I just wake up every day. I do the things that I love and I just give it my best every day. And sure, life throws me hurdles. My eating is not perfect. My exercise is not perfect. But knowing that I go to bed each day just doing the best that I could have done, that means the world to me. And I've overcome and let go of those perfectionist tendencies that I don't feel like a failure at the end of the day. Because every day I just aim for 10% better. And that is the best thing about aiming for good enough instead of perfect, because there's no real definition of good enough. So every day I encourage you guys to just aim for 10% better. Trust me, every day you will win. And every day, slowly but surely, you will progress in every aspect of your life rather than being paralyzed by this perfectionism, which means that too often than not, you just put off everything and you don't even start it or you don't even try. So guys, please take it from me. Choose messy action every day. And slowly but surely, your healthy habits will become routine. Some days you'll get 10%, some days you'll get 80%. But eventually, in the long run, you'll get an A+ in your health. And you didn't even mean to, without even trying. That is the best thing about messy action and aiming for good enough, is that in the long run, it all adds up, rather than us being completely paralyzed by perfectionism and not even trying. So starting today, I want you to focus on messy action over no action every single day. Aim for 10% better, and most days you'll actually surprise yourself with how much you actually achieve. And it is so much nicer going to bed at nighttime thinking that you've actually progressed rather than feeling like you've constantly failed. Because guess what? You didn't. Every day you can make small amounts of progress. Every day you might take a couple of backward steps, and that's okay as well, because we look at progression in the long term. It's not one day that dictates the rest of your life. It's not even a bad week or a bad month. So never feel like you need to wait until Monday or you need to wait until a new month or a new week or anything like that. Just get back on track the very next meal, because all those small percentages add up at the end of the day. So I hope that you guys found this podcast valuable. So please, please, please take a few minutes out of your day to leave me a rating or share my podcast with a friend or a family member who you would think would absolutely love it. And I will catch you guys in the next podcast. But please remember, messy action beats no action any day.